and we can start to change hand positions. We can do it at the walk for an easy version. We can do it at trot for a more difficult version. We can start to take both hands off the reins, tying the reins in a knot and take both hands off for the more difficult. Or we could even step those into canter poles, and then essentially that same exercise has even been stepped up to one more difficulty level. So the next thing that I like to do after the rider skill building is then do something that's a training exercise. So this is something that's for the horse. Oftentimes I do use patterns. So that's training exercise. I always forget that. Always forget how to spell training. Training exercise. And the training exercise is often a pattern, or it'll be a movement. So for example, I might do, for a more advanced horse and rider, or for a more advanced horse that I'm working with, I might do a leg yield to a half pass back to a leg yield. So it's working on something that's helping the horse. It's helping the horse build strength. It's helping the horse improve their bend. It's helping them become better at going from riding arcs to riding straight lines, riding circles to riding straight lines. So it's something that's for the horse, and I do that one separately as well. So then I'll work on getting my pattern, especially depending on the pattern, and if it's a pattern or a movement that's new to you, it can be helpful to focus on just what that pattern is. So like if you're doing a serpentine, you know exactly where you're going, you've picked out your points that you're going to be making your crosses, going across the arena, and you've really got the pattern down. Then I like to combine the two. So then what I'll do is I'll ride my pattern or my movement doing the rider skill building exercise. So here's what that might look like. If what I was doing for rider skill building was exercises for upper body, maybe riding with the hand out in front, or riding with the hand up on the helmet and bring the elbow back to help open up this area, then I'll ride with that exercise, but now I'll actually do my pattern too. And it really helps to break down the different skills and then to put them back together. So you start to really incorporate what you were working on with your rider skill building with what you're doing with the horse. And of course, all of these exercises help with both, because when we improve how we're riding and how our posture and our alignment, our balance, we improve our horse's movement. When we're improving our horse's movement, it's also going to help us. So everything is really working on both. It's just where the focus is. So then I do the combination. And then finally, for my final step, for the sixth step in this, is I like to do a cool down and reflection. So again, the amount of cool down that you're actually having to do will depend on how intense your session was. So if you just, did a 50 minutes where you were working really hard, you started off really getting your horse supple and strong and doing some lateral work, and then you were jumping through grids, and your horse got a hard workout, you're going to want to spend a lot more time on your cool down. And you're also going to have to think of your cool down as not just allowing the horse's heart rate to come down, but allowing this cool down to be a period where they're getting to stretch. It's the same for you. Think about it when you do an intense workout, you've got to put a little bit more effort into your recovery, or you're going to be sore the next day. So the cool down is going to vary on the length of this, depending on how intense your session was. But in the cool down, we're thinking about just letting the heart rate come down, about stretching and doing things for the physical body, but there's also the mental piece of the cool down. So it's thinking about these kind of transition phases. We had this transition phase into riding state of mind. The cool down, to me, is kind of another transition phase, because we're going from this more working concentration mode into now we're going to go back to the barn. We're going to have kind of more of that quiet time with the horse, hopefully, where we're putting them away, we're caring for them. And in this time, this is a great time to also think about reflecting on your ride and think about what went well, what would you do differently, and what do you want to remember the next time out. So our cool down again has the physical component, but it should also have the time for reflection. I really recommend getting a habit around this reflection time. So you might do it as you're walking around. You might kind of be thinking about, what did I feel? What was an improvement? What didn't really work that well? And then have a habit where you either do a journal or you even just enter a note in your phone, but you have something to help kind of lock in what an important point was for you and remember it for the next ride. So this is going to vary on what works for your routine. Some people really like to journal. They like to write a lot, take a lot of notes, and that's awesome. If you find that you struggle to stay consistent with that, then just try a few words in your phone, even in a text message to yourself, so you start to have a log of it, and it's something that you want to remember. It'll help you the next time you go out to ride to be here in this riding state of mind. You can even pull that up, your note from last time, and say, okay, this is what I want to remember. This is what I'm going to be working on. It'll help you reference that feeling again. If you had something that just felt really good during your ride, it'll help you reference that and be prepared and be set up for a great ride every time that you go out. If you've ever taken lessons or classes in other sports or movement activities, you've probably noticed that with a good teacher, they do follow a sort of structure. And I think you'll find that if you give this structure a try in your own riding, it will be really, really helpful. You may already be thinking of some of these exercises that you've done with your horse before, that you found beneficial, that you've picked up from books, from clinics, from lessons. Think about making a list of those exercises and then being able to plug them in here. If you're interested in more exercises, more ideas for what to do within this structure, I just finished this book. This is Stay in the Saddle, 67 Exercises for Horse and Rider. I'm pretty excited about it. This is a combination of all of the exercises that I find I use the most for myself, for my students. Many of them I've learned through the years from my mentors, which you will also be seeing some of those in this fair as well. So there's a link down below if you're interested in picking up a copy of the book. The exercises follow this structure, so it really helps to be able to plug right in and plan every ride. Thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you watching, and enjoy the ride.